الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد النبي وأزواجه أمهات المؤمنين وذريته وآل بيته كما صليت على آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. Before we go to the next hadith, just quick comment on this ayat. The ayat recited in Surat Al-Isha were from Surat Al-Baqarah, and these ayat are very important to understand because they tell us of the things that take away our reward. If you do something good with sincerity for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are certain things that you may do, and these things cancel the goodness that you've done, cancel the reward. Not only may they cancel, they may actually cause you more problems. Negative, exactly. The first one is an example of a man who gives sadaqah to the poor, but then he keeps on reminding that poor person of what he did to him. He says, remember that day? Remember, you have to know that I've done you so many favors. This is called adha, man wa adha. What is called in English? Man wa adha. Adha means to harm, to create harm, to hurt. Adha. Man means to remind someone that you did him a favor. You keep on reminding him. Does this have a word in English? Al-man. So you keep on reminding him. Remember that day I gave you this. Remember that day. So Allah says, if this poor person had come to you and you had told him a nice word and didn't give him anything, would have been better for you than to give him and then to hurt him for years after that you've given him one day. Right? Allah says, قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ يَتْبَعُهَا أَذًى. He says, if you just had give him a good word to him and a nice face and not give him any money, would have been better for you than to lose all your money and then lose all your reward on top of that. Subhanallah. Wallahu ghaniyyun halim. Allah ghani means Allah does not need you, does not need your money. Allah is the one who is the most wealthy, ghani. He owns the heavens and earth, and he can create whatever he wills by the word kun. إنما يعني عطاؤه كلام. Whenever he wants to give, all he has to say is this happens and this will happen. Kun.
So when he means generous and rich both.
Exactly. So Allah is reminding that rich person that Allah is the one who is most wealthy. Allah who is the one who has given you, and Allah does not need your money to be given to the poor. Right? Halim means Allah is very patient. It is also a reminder to that person who's going and hurting them. It is a reminder to that rich person who's going and hurting the poor person that Allah is seeing what you're doing, and Allah can punish you, but Allah is giving you a chance. Wallahu ghaniyyun halim. He is patient and He sees what you're doing, but He's still allowing you to survive, although He could have punished you earlier on. This is the first example mentioned in the first ayah. The second ayah is an example of a good person. The good person is the one who gives his sadaqah. وَمَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يَنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ. He wants the pleasure of Allah, مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ. He wants to please Allah. وَتَثْبِيتًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ. This is important, very important. تَثْبِيتًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ means he seeks by giving his money that Allah make him steadfast on his iman. Whenever you give money for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, it's hard on you, and your account in the bank has gone down a little bit. But this will make you steadfast on the path of iman. It will strengthen your iman. And one day when you're weak, Allah will support you with iman, and you won't deviate and go far away from Islam. So وَتَثْبِيتًا مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ, that is very important. One of the best ways to stay on the path, on the right path, is to give money. One of the best ways. Allah gives the example of the second person who's giving this for the sake of Allah, like كَمَثَلِ جَنَّةٍ بِرَبْوَةٍ, like a very nice garden located on the top of a hill. Rabwa means hill. كَمَثَلِ جَنَّةٍ بِرَبْوَةٍ أَصَابَهَا وَابِلٌ. It was hit by rain. فَآتَتْ أُكُولَهَا ضِعْفَيْنِ. The best garden is the garden that is on a hill. Why is that? Because it is exposed to rain and to sun all the time. All the rain will go to the high places. And the sun is never, it's never what? Yeah, it's never shaded away from these areas. So فَأَكْلُ كُلْهَا ضَعْفَيْنِ, its fruit and its product is always multiple compared to. You can ask the farmers, and they tell you, for instance, the land that is close to Elkwater is better than the land that is around Medicine Hat, for instance, because this is higher, gets more rain, and has more sun. This is the example of the person who is doing it for the sake of Allah. Allah says, فَإِن لَمْ يُصِبْهَا وَابِلٌ فَطَلْ, if it is not affected by heavy rain, even the light rain will give it some kind of benefit, based upon how much he gave and how much sincerity and good intention he has. Tal means a light rain. Either it is affected by heavy rain and brings so much produce, or even a light rain and it's still beneficial. Anything that you put in it, it will come out. And then Allah says, وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ, and it is He, Allah, who is seeing what you're doing. If you're giving a lot, with a lot of sincerity and a lot of regard for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the results are going to be magnificent. You're giving less, you still get results, but are less to a lesser degree. وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. For the example of the first person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about the one who goes and reminds the fourth person of what he did to him. Allah says, فَمَثَلُهُ كَالَّذِي يُنْفِقُ مَالَهُ رِئَاءَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. Allah said another kind of person who does not get any reward, who does the action without any intention. كَالَّذِي يُنْفِقُ مَالَهُ رِئَاءَ النَّاسِ, someone who's actually given the money just for the people to say that he is generous. So this is a third kind of person mentioned in these ayat. كَالَّذِي يُنْفِقُ مَالَهُ رِئَاءَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. Or another kind of person who does not even believe in Allah or the hereafter, and he is giving. How many people are mentioned so far? 4 so far, right? So you talked about the person who has iman in Allah and the hereafter is doing it for the sake of Allah. He gets all the benefit, and he is like the garden that whatever you put in it, it produces. A person who does not believe in Allah at all or the hereafter, no matter how much he does, he won't get anything back, right? A person who believes in Allah, but what he does is doing for the sake of the people, not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he also doesn't get anything back of this action, of this act of worship that he did. And the person who spends, maybe doing it for the sake of Allah, but then ruins what he did by hurting the poor person after that, it would have been better for him not to even give in the first place. No? Why?
Because he was doing it for the sake of Allah.
But he is not reminding the poor person.
No, he could have done it for the sake of Allah, but he has a weak nafs that he likes to feel higher than other people later on, so even if he did it for the sake of Allah.
I mean, eventually it's not for the sake of Allah.
No, the action was for the sake of Allah, but then whatever he did after the action,
he's not reminding people.
Yeah, ruined what he did for the sake of Allah.
But he's not going and telling, okay, I did it for you. But at least he's not doing that.
Are you talking about the one who did it not for the sake of Allah?
No, what I'm saying is, these two to me seems...
They're not the same. Somebody, the first action that he did, that this is the ri'a al-nas. He's doing it for the sake of people. But the other one did it for the sake of Allah, but then after that he started reminding. So he did something good, but then he ruined it. And then Allah gives the example of these 3 kinds who do not get any reward. Like what? Like a stone. You see the mu'min was like a mountain that is hit by rain. But these people are like a small stone that is covered with a little bit amount of dust. Because you look at the small stone covered by dust, you think this is nice, productive land. Right? Part of the land. It is part of the land. A stone here, and this is land, and the stone is covered by dust, so it looks as if it is part of this land. But Allah says, whenever the rain hits, what happens? It will make it clean. It will take away the dust, and nothing will grow, and it will show it as it will show the reality of this stone. It is just a stone. It will never produce anything. And look at the difference in size between a hill, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala values these people who are doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He resembles them like a hill, a mountain, and covered with a garden, exposed to the sun, exposed to the rain. But this is like a small stone. Look at the size. And this stone is only covered by a little amount of dust. Whenever it's hit by rain, all this goes away. So this is 4 people. The fifth kind of person mentioned in the following ayah, أَيَوَدُّ أَحَدُكُمْ أَن تَكُونَ لَهُ جَنَّةٌ مِّن نَخِيلٍ وَأَعْنَابٍ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ لَهُ فِيهَا مِن كُلِّ الثَّمَرَاتِ. This fifth person will explain or clarify what you were talking about. This fifth person is someone, Ibn Abbas says, هذا مثل ضربه الله لرجل عمل بالطاعات طيلة حياته ثم عمل بالسيئات فأفسد ما سبق. This is like a person who was doing everything for the sake of Allah, for the sake of Allah, for the sake of Allah, for a long period of his life, until he actually grew this kind of garden. يود أحدكم أن تكون له جنة, a garden, من نخيل وعناب, different kinds of fruits coming out of it. تجري من تحتها الأنهار. It is so productive and so rich that rivers are flowing amongst it and beneath it. له فيها من كل الثمرات. So he has established himself so good. But look at this. Then he says, وَأَصَابَهُ الْكِبَرُ وَلَهُ ذُرِّيَّةٌ ضُعَفَاء. He is now at the end of his life. And he's old. And he has weak children, small, young children. Sometimes you find someone who's 70 and maybe got married when he's very late, like his second marriage or third marriage, and he has very little children, like 6 and 7 years old. He says, وَأَصَابَهُ الْكِبَرُ وَلَهُ ذُرِّيَّةٌ ضُعَفَاء فَأَصَابَهَا إِعْصَارٌ فِيهِ نَارٌ فَاحْتَرَقَتْ. He says, as he is in this state, a huge storm comes with lightning, and it burns down his whole garden. This is an example of someone who kept on doing for the sake of Allah for many years, and then he transferred and deviated away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and kept on doing the opposite of what he was doing in his initial life. And whatever he did in the last, this is a khitam, this is like a khatimah. The end of his life is what counts. So it ruined everything that he's done before that. It ruined everything that he's done before that. And subhanAllah, when you have kids, you know how hard it is to think that you're leaving behind you little children and you're old. And then all the wealth that you were saving for them is gone. This is the same, because somebody is reaching the end of his life, and this is when he needs the hasanat the most, and he's approaching his akhirah, right? And then suddenly, all what he has saved all his life, he is destroying it by going the opposite way. So this is another example of how someone can ruin his hasanat. So this example shows that he did it for the sake of Allah for a long time, and then he still ruined it by going the opposite way. So this is the meaning of this ayat. Inshallah we'll stop here. We won't have time to talk about it. Any question about this ayat?
I was asking what is Rabwa. Because there's a place in Pakistan called Rabwa.
Yes.
It is the headquarters for the Qadianis.
Oh, okay.
The Ahmadis.
Rabwa means the hill or mountain.
That place is called Rabwa. That's their headquarters.
No, it's not.
They have their Jannah there.
No, not a place in Jannah. The word Jannah means garden. So كَمَثَلِ جَنَّةٍ بِرَبْوَةٍ, like a garden on top of a hill. So so even the word Jannah over here after, it's called Jannah because it's all gardens and trees and rivers and all these kind of things.